G'day viewers, welcome to another super cool, super helpful repair video from the Goat Shed. Today we'll be talking about Gottlieb's Magnetron, made in June 1974. Now there were 6,550 of those made, and the machine made before it was Gottlieb's Big Brave, and immediately after Magnetron was Duotron with a production rate amount of 2,525 units. Now this is a Krinsky design with Morrison artwork, and it's very similar to Bronco, which came out some 3 years later, the main difference being that instead of the captive ball in the middle of the playfield, we have on Bronco the drop targets. And there's another interesting thing: the Bronco originally was meant to have 5 drop targets in the middle, but apparently it was suggested by John Osborne to Krinsky that they only make it 3 and change the dynamics of the game, which Krinsky agreed to. So today is Wednesday, the 31st of January 2024. It's 23 degrees Celsius outside, which is approximately 73.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, we've already gone over the back box on this machine and done all the mechs in there. We've shown you all that sort of thing before, so we won't really go over that again. There was nothing abnormal in the back box that I can think of, was there, Graham?
No, everything was pretty tidy.
Pretty tidy?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we have the motor board out. We've done the playfield. That's all been cleaned and waxed. New rubbers and everything. And what we'll do in the next part of the video, we'll reassemble the machine and fit all the parts back in, and we'll turn it on and we'll do the troubleshooting. But the motor board, we found a few fairly interesting things. So like all games, we remove the motor board from the machine, and this is where you discover a lot of interesting things. So far, what we've found is on 4 relays, there's been at least 1 screw missing. Now, you say to yourself, well, how would that happen? I really don't know. We did find 1 screw sort of backed out a bit, so maybe they back out and fall out, but maybe just someone takes them out, loses them, and says, oh well, 1's enough. But of course that allows, if the other screw comes loose, the switches stacks can move sideways and just not make proper contact. The other thing we found was that on this particular relay, which is the that's the Q relay, which is the bonus score relay. This is a normally closed switch, and this switchblade here, the long one, was bowed. It was really bent. It looks like someone had got a pair of pliers to it. As you can see, it's fairly straight now. I had to get the adjuster tool and fit it on, and really in about the middle, like there, at that point, and just sort of slightly bow it to help it out, and then straighten it, because that switch actually wasn't opening. So we go through every relay. We find that necessary. It's probably not recommended beginners do this, because you can make mistakes and things like that, but we're reasonably experienced at this, and we like to check every relay. So if we didn't have a good look at them, we wouldn't have found those screws missing. And we were able to replace those screws in our previous video we've done, which we hope you've all watched, about parts and tools. We've got spare relay, so you can see 2 screws missing from that one. Well, guess where they are now? In the other one. So it helps to have a few spare parts on board. This is simply a customer repair. It's not a restoration. It's purely a repair. Now, there's a bit of a story behind this game. What I forgot to mention when we were looking at the back glass earlier on, you notice the score reel well, what do they call it? I don't know, where the score rails are.
Window surround.
Yeah, the window, that's the word we're looking for. Someone scraped them all away, which is a bit strange. I guess the paint was flaking and they decided to do something about it. I've simply got the end of a points file sticking in here to remind me which relay I'm up to. That's the S relay, and I've only then got the W relay to worry about. Now, if you have a look here, now here we have the score motor completely removed from the cradle. And we've actually done a video on that way back, how to remove the score motor from the cradle. That makes it much easier to work on. But the main reason we do this is so we can lubricate the motor by putting some drops of oil on there with our Singer sewing machine oil in there. There's a felt pad there till the oil won't absorb any longer. Now Graham just did that then. We've actually lubricated that just earlier on. When you've got the score motor out like this, it makes it easier to get at things. So for argument's sake, the bottom of a switch stack, like this would be stack 1A we're looking at here, you can a lot easier get from the other side. You can get at the three switches. So on stack 1A, generally the outside switch is the scoring switch. This is a multiplayer game, so the middle switch will be the add player unit switch for the P for Peter relay, and the very inside switch would be the switch for reset. Now you'll find that possibly reset score reels. That'll be motor stack 1A score reels 1 and 2, and maybe another motor stack will on the pulse will reset 3 and 4 via the Z1, Z2 relays. Alright, now this particular motorboard, on a cursory glance, didn't have an awful lot wrong with it, but we did find something which we found to be very unusual. Allow me to show you this. We discovered this by finding a spring in the bottom of the machine when we lifted the motorboard out. Initially I thought that spring was off a step unit, off the reset arm, but when we looked at the machine more closely we discovered where the spring really came from. So that spring that we're pointing to now with the spring hook was the spring we found, and in fact what had happened, the whole armature plate, that whole plate, was missing, and it wasn't in the score motor. Now what was happening was this switch here remained in that position, so even if it reset it would fall down because there was no armature plate there to latch it. Now I guess this machine would never have started because those switches would have been closed when it was trying to start a one player game. So that's quite bizarre, isn't it? I've never seen that before, but you know, it's 50-year-old, well in June it will be, and that's what we found. And these were all very dirty. I mean, that one's not too bad, but we've cleaned them up the best we can. We've discussed this many times. Try and get them to roll freely. Makes a world of difference. And we clean the back of the switches where it strikes them. See, you get a lot of gunk there. Yeah. Okay. Now the other thing we've noticed, and we'll have a look here, is, let's get down. See that? That's open. Look at that. Now that's been deliberately done. There's no way this machine will start because the power can't get through. That's where all the power goes through, those slam switches. Now remember, on a machine there's generally 3 slam switches. There's one on the front door, normally closed, this one here on the motorboard, and often one in the back box, normally closed. Then there's one on the Playfield, normally open. And it's fair to mention that sometimes the one in the back box is part of the tilt circuit mechanism rather than the slam tilt. Alright, well, there's the panel. We're going to check the fuses. Now, the first thing I notice there when I look, there's a light box fuse with a slow blow fuse in. Now, that won't be right. it should be 10 amp and 10 amp for the playboard and 25 volt for the coils and everything, but that, people, is a slow blow fuse, simply identified by the fact it's got that springy looking piece in it there. Okay, so that definitely is wrong.
It's a high and playing game.
There's the amount of plays on the meter.
Fair whack. It made the money.
And I don't know if I mentioned earlier on, but this game came from the USA, so it's only got a 110 volt transformer in there, and the owners bought us out a very cheap, like, step down transformer, which we'll use to test, but we've recommended he buy another one. So, as I said, we've almost finished those relays, got to clip all those back in, we'll swing this down, and you know what we're going to do when we swing this down? We're going to remind you. We're going to remind you, people, remind you about this, making sure that that frame is perpendicular with that frame before you tighten it up, because that will give you all sorts of trouble. Okay, now we've mentioned that before. There's that one there. These come loose. Now remember, Gottlieb moved away from these big trip banks, I think, after Far Out. What year did Far Out come out, Graham? 75?
Yeah, maybe was it Fast Draw was the last one, maybe?
Oh, I'm not 100% sure, but
yeah,
I'm pretty...
Well, Fast Draw come out after Far Out.
No, Far Out, Far Out. Anyway, it's irrelevant. They did away with it, and of course they replaced them with the effervescent AX relays.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can see these are fairly, I suppose, expensive to make. They were wanting to do things cheaper. We've checked every screw here to make sure that they're all tight. One or two screw heads are a bit dodgy. Where was one here somewhere, I remember? Oh dear, there's one there somewhere that's not real good. Oh, there it is there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
someone's given a bit of a...
someone's given that a working over, and there's another one just there we're looking at. So
we checked all the wires.
Yeah, we've given the wires a quick tug and everything, and that's what we do with the relays. We get in there and we make sure all the wires are on there good.
It helps just to have a quick look to make sure no screws or springs are between lugs that come out of the playfield.
And what we always do too, there's a continuous wire, this green wire running all the way over to here. So we just get a meter on here and make sure that it runs or gives us a circuit from one end to the other. There's the other end of it just there. So the end of the green wire there, it's behind that white wire, but we like to check that as well. Alright, so now it's just a matter of putting this game back together and doing a bit of troubleshooting, which we'll run through with you now. So now we're ready for a bit of troubleshooting. We have the motorboard back in the game. We've got the head box on, and we'll start a game and see what happens. So let's do that. Let's just start a game. Oh, now it looks like we've got the 10-point score reel on player 1, not resetting. That score mode is continuously running. So we need to have a look at that and see what the problem is. That's our first task. Now, we don't have the playfield in at the moment, everybody. That's the way we tend to like to do things. It makes it easier to see what's happening in the reset procedure, or sequence is probably the better word to use. Now let's just pop around the back of the game and have a look and see why the 10 hasn't reset. We suspect a run-out switch, but... So here we are at the back of the game, and let's just pull out that 10-point score reel and have a look. And we're going to inspect the switches.
No, you can see straight away.
Oh, here you go, look at that. See that wire there? What colour wire is that? That's a...
It looks like orange-blue.
Orange-blue. And that comes off, what, the top switch?
It's a continuation.
And the top switch, I think, is the run-out switch. So there's our answer why that's not working. Let's solder that back on and see what happens. Earlier on in the video, we mentioned we didn't have a lot to do in the back box, but of course, time goes by reasonably quickly, and probably 7 or 8 days ago, we actually did go through all the back box mechs. So I just remembered the player unit was particularly bad on this game. And this was the one we actually showed you in part of a video with the score motor dog worn out on a separate game. And this game had the worn, very badly worn, or super badly worn reset arm. That's obviously gap not supposed to be there. So we had to change that over. So that was a problem with that game. We had quite badly worn part. So it's very, very important to go through these step units. As I said, on this game the step unit appeared to be working okay, but now I recall it was sort of stepping a little bit backwards before it went forward, which you really don't want to happen because the rivets are pretty close together on those and there's a lot of them. And that's why it's important to pull steppers down and check them out thoroughly. Alright, in front of me I have two Gottlieb score reels. Now, they look the same, don't they? Well, they do look the same, but they're not the same. Let's just turn them over. There they are. Once again, they still look the same. But let me show you a major difference in those two reels. So the score reel here on the left is a different style and therefore has a different switch configuration. Now we have spoken about this before. This particular switch configuration came out in a series of machines around, look, roughly 74, maybe 75, only on multiplayer games. And how you identify one of these is that there's a nylon spacer there on the bottom switch. See that nylon spacer? There it is there. It just rests on the operating arm there. If you have a look at this one on the right, let's get in and have a look at that. There's no nylon spacer. It's just a standard configuration. Now, how you tell the difference is that nylon spacer. That and it alone really gives it away. So this particular switch configuration, this score reel is now at 0, and at 0 all three switches are open. Between 1 and 8, the top and bottom are closed, and the middle one's open because the middle one is the 9 carryover switch. And at 9 the whole three are closed. Now that's totally different. I'm going to say that again. At 0 they're all open, 1 to 8 the top and bottom are closed and the middle's open, and at 9 they're all closed. Now let's talk about the one on the right, which is a standard, more common configuration. The top switch is the 9 switch. This score reel's at 0. So the 9 switch is open and the middle one is closed. The middle one is your run-out switch. Oh, the middle one, I beg your pardon, the middle one's open at 0. I'll start that again. We're at 0. The 9 switch is open, the middle one is open, and the bottom switch is closed for 0. Now that's your major difference. And we've had people try and adjust the left side to be the same as the right side. In other words, they've thought that someone's altered them or adjusted them. That's not the case. Now remember, this is Magnetron. I think Big Indian, did it have a big...
yeah, that'll have the same.
Same. 74 to 75. Graham and I just trying to nut it out now.
Yeah, but they had them in the 60s as well.
Oh, yeah, I meant to say that. So, Dancing Lady
was the
first in 1966.
That we know of.
Yeah, that we're aware of, yeah. Now, I have asked this question, and nobody seems to know the answer why they did this. There's got to be a reason. And maybe I'll ask the question again, but since we've got one of these two styles of score reels now. So that's very, very important. Okay, that's the difference. Now we've soldered this wire on, and let's have another go. Alright, we've resoldered that wire on, and now we should be able to press the go button and everything should work. Let's have a look. And now we have a reset. So something as simple as that, a cold solder joint and the wire broke off. Probably happened and we didn't even notice before. Now the next thing we want to check is Graham will go around the back of the machine, and well, we'd like to check that all the score reels are carrying over. In other words, we're going to operate the 10-point reel. Oh, we operated the wrong one.
No, it's locking on.
And we've now found that that 10-point reel is locking on.
Probably an stroke switch.
So let's have a look at that. That could well be an end of stroke switch. So as we suspected, what the problem was the end of stroke switch, which is this one here closest to the coil, wasn't opening, and that was therefore the score reel was locking on. We needed it to open like that. Alright, and just a slight adjustment of the tab at the top of the switch allowed us to do that, because that's the bit there with the little bit of rubber on, and that bit of rubber can often fall off, and you know, sometimes that can give you problems because you've got a short going through there hitting the back of the switch. Doesn't happen often, but it can happen. So that's all good now. So let's have a look at the carryover now. Okay, now we'll check the 10-point again. There you go, and it carried. 100 points carrying. Yep, and now we'll check the...
Well, that's not carrying, is it?
Oh, hang on.
Is it 1,000? Oh,
Yep, 1,000 carrying, yep. And now we'll check the 1,000. No, that didn't carry.
Okay.
Oh, yes, it did then.
Oh,
Yeah.
there we go.
Sometimes viewers, when you're operating the relay manually, you don't press it in hard enough. There you go.
You've got to press it in hard.
You got to press, yeah, because the switch doesn't make good contact.
Go to player 2.
Yeah, now we'll manually advance the score player unit to player 2. You can see player 2's a light. And that one carried over. And player 2, yeah, it finally carried over.
Yeah, you got to press it in.
Yeah, he's probably just not pressing in hard enough. But, okay, we're not going to go through every player with you. We don't want to bore you to tears, but that's just the way we like to test them. Alright, there you go. We've checked player 3 and 4 and they're okay. The only thing we noticed, and I don't know if any of you viewers noticed as well, that the 100 point seemed to be doing a bit of a double shuffle every so often. So we're going to take a look at that 100 point relay and check it out. Now the 100 point relay gets a fair flogging on this game because there's multiples of 100 in different areas of it.
And 500.
And 500. So it does get a pizzling, and what we'll probably do, even though it's a bit of a pain, we'll have a look at the switches first, but it may be necessary for us to actually pull the armature plate out. Now if we've got to do that, that's a bit of work, but we'll just check it out first and see. Okay, we didn't really find much wrong with that relay, so let's push the 500 point. It's quite smooth when you do that, working fine. So we'll just leave it and we'll test it when we get the Playfield in with 100 points. It probably was just by manually pressing it in you can get sort of a false sort of indication, shall we say. Alright, so Playfield in now. Alright, we've just plugged the Playfield in. Ready to go. Let's put a ball in, get ready to do a reset, and we'll see what happens. Well, nothing. Listen to that, the score motor is constantly running. Now, as soon as we put the ball in, alright, we need to investigate that, but what we now know is that the thing working okay prior to us putting the Playfield in, so it's got something to do with that. Now, it could well be the bonus unit. There's a switch on the bonus unit that often will do things like that. It's like the 0 position switch on the bonus unit, and it's got to be closed to let the ball kick out. So that's our suspicion. So let's have a quick look. Right, so here we are looking at the bonus unit.
So I'll put a ball down the out hole.
Well, hold that out hole switch manually, and straight away the motor starts to run.
So we're going to set the bonus unit back to 0. Yeah, the bonus unit is actually sticking a little bit as well.
Oh, rightio. But now we're at 0.
And it's all good.
That's good. Now, I think...
But the only other thing it hasn't done, it hasn't kicked the ball out. Well, we haven't started the game, but I think we should look at the out-hole relay.
Okay, hang on. Okay. Now, on investigation, we found it wasn't the out-hole relay, but we discovered that the bonus score relay wasn't operating, and have a look what we found.
Wire off.
A wire off. So
just check the other wires while you're there as well.
Hopefully that will fix the problem. Now, we do have a schematic for this game, but I have it at my house. It's not here, so I'll have to bring it round tomorrow. Now we're down to this level. The only reason we found that was we just put a little bit of logic together. So when you're experienced in these machines, you start to learn where to look. So it had something to do with the bonus. We're happy about the 0 position switch, but now we've just got to solder that wire on, and hopefully that should fix our problem. Okay, we've resoldered that wire on. Let's
put a ball down the guards.
Hold that ball.
And nothing happens, which is good. So we'll step the bonus unit up. A couple of bonuses, and we'll see what happens. There we go, works perfect.
Beautifully.
So,
okay.
So it's ready to start a game now.
That's solved that problem. Alright, now we should be ready to do a bit of testing. So let's pop that Playfield down and see what happens. Okay, let's do another reset. Okay.
But the ball didn't kick out.
The ball didn't kick out. It tried to.
My switch is a bit dodgy, that's all.
Alright.
That's nothing.
The out-hole switch must need a bit of adjustment.
Yeah.
So we'll have to fix that up. Okay. Alright, let's roll over.
Specials?
And did it replay?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll go again.
Now,
so the knockers and the chimes are not hooked up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, knocker and chime not hooked up. So there we go, we've got our special light because we actually got the ABC out, so you get your special light on
so
both.
it's not as easy as it looks because your A is your skill shot.
That's right.
But you can get the B and the C in 2 different places.
Okay, let's just operate the pops for 100 points. Okay.
The side kickouts.
Okay. Alright. Now we had that problem where the bonus wouldn't count down when you went into the out hole, and we simply fixed that. What it was the switch blade actuator was bent too far up, and it was causing
the tension because the ball wasn't heavy enough.
On it, and not closing the switch properly. Now that was fine, we've fixed that, and the bonuses are all counting up and down now. Notice we've taken the apron off. Now the reason we did that, we had trouble with the ball kicking out. Now this is fairly common on these ones with 2 claws. When I mean 2 claws like that. Some have only got single claw. Let's just drop that ball in and watch it kick out. Now that kicked out quite well. But you might notice something. we've actually had to put a screw in here, right? Just a self-tapping screw we've put in there so that the ball sits more squarely on the claw. What it was doing, it was rolling forward, and when it was rolling forward it would jump up in the air and just fall back down. Now, because the ball's held in the same position, it will kick out much more reliably. Now that's a little trick. It does work largely on this type of game. As you can see, there's no problem. I haven't scored, so I'm still in ball one. Hasn't missed a beat, where before it would stutter and hesitate. So it's all good now. Now, hope that helps people, because I had a Magnetron and it did the same thing. Now that was one of my first pinballs I got back in 2014, and I fiddled around a lot with it. Oh, the other thing I did on this too, by the way, Graham was busy with a customer, I just got a pair of pliers and squeezed the two claws a little bit closer together too, to make the ball sit more central on it. So that's just simply by lifting it up and squeezing them with a big pair of pliers, like these ones here we use. Just, you lift that up. Yeah, should be right, lift her up. Oh no, sorry, not the, lift the, from underneath, mate. Yeah, just like that. I'm not going to do it again, and give it a squeeze. You can see it go together. Not a lot. All right. So that's how we do that. All right. Now, as I mentioned, we've now achieved the bonuses. Counting down. So let's have a little look at that. Let's just get a few bonuses up. Okay. Let's. So we've got what do we got there? 6,000. Well, here we go. Let's drain the ball. Beautiful, and the ball kicked out. And goes to second ball. Now the next problem we had, we noticed that when we were playing a one-player game, every time you do that, when it went to second ball, we heard the player unit operate 5 times. Now it should only operate 4, so that's click, 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 click. What the problem was that we're looking at the player unit out of the game, of course, and this isn't the player unit from the game. This is easier to illustrate. We have switches P, 5A, A is always lower, and 5B, so 5A and 5B, and then we have player 4, player 3, player 2 and player 1. And if you've ever watched any of our other videos, they're all white cams, so that indicates it's player it's a 4-player game, I'm sorry, where they have 2 red and 2 white and the black. That's a 2-player game. But anyway, we've done videos on that. Now what should happen to come back to a 4-player game? It should go click, 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 click. That's a 1-player game, I mean. And what was happening on ours, player 2, it was going to player 2, this switch here on the top was way too close, and I'd say the vibration of the, when it goes, because it's going hard, remember, I'm just doing that really slow, go bang, 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 was making that close, and we'd get the 5th click, and that caused it to go to player 2. So that's okay, that's all good now, and that fixed that. So we're just going to do some further testing on Magnetron now and see what happens. Oh, there's Spanky. Hello, Spanky. And just to go over it, you know, check every player again. But largely now we're happy with that. You know, we may find some other minor details.
But we tested for a week or so anyway.
Yes. So remember, this was the one where we had a big worn part in the player unit, which we showed you earlier in the video, and that was just a switch that was giving us a little bit of a problem. So the smallest and simplest things can give you trouble as long as you know where to look. Isn't that right, Spanky? Yes, indeed. So please remember to subscribe to our channel and give us the big thumbs up to our videos. We'd greatly appreciate that. Let us know in the comments what you might like to see in the future. And thanks so much for watching. And this has been another GoChed presentation.